are now listening to Season 3 of the VMX Show. Hey everybody, NecroVMX here, and welcome to the VMX Show, Season 3, Episode 8. Getting through the season, huh? There's only 4 more episodes left after this one, so, you know, the great thing is that after Season 3 is done, I will be uploading Season 1 to YouTube, and then after that we'll start Season 4, so... You know, that's, you'll still have the VMX Show every week, but it'll be, I guess, VMX Show Classics, so to speak. So, open the show with the theme from Dragon Age. I've been playing that on the Xbox 360 recently, and I know, obviously, it's not exactly a new game, as Dragon Age 2 just came out, but I have so many games that it takes me a while to get to games that I buy, so I've just been playing Dragon Age recently. I gotta say, I am enjoying it. We got a lot of show for you. We got questions and comments. We got news. Vinnie, a.k.a. Xboxitude on YouTube, stopped by for an interview, so we'll be having that later on in the show. And, of course, we'll end it with the sales figure. So let's get to your questions and comments right away. Here's one from Dilbert Hernandez. He says, "Hey, Necro, gotta say, last episode was one of my favorites. Interesting news pieces. You'd think EA would eventually learn to not be total dicks all the fucking time. Yeah, you would think that, but, you know, they're EA. As well as an enjoyable interview. I know you both spoke briefly of Final Fantasy Chronicles, and I wanted to ask you, which of the re-release compilations on the PS1 did you favor the most? Origins, Chronicles, or Anthology? I'm interested in purchasing them all someday, but I'd like to start with one, and knowing your personal favorite may give me some insight as to which would be the best deal or most enjoyable. By the way, let me answer that before I move on. I would say Anthology would be the one to start with, although Anthology could have issues playing on the PS2. I'm not sure about PS3. It is possible, but the graphics are a little glitched on the save screen But that one contained Final Fantasy V and VI, and it was the first time that Final Fantasy V was coming out in America. You know, Chronicles, of course, is Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy IV, which is great, and Origins is 1 and 2, but the thing about Origins is it's a really bad version of 2. If you're going to get any version of those, get Final Fantasy 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls on the Game Boy Advance, or even better, get them for PSP where they're in high def. Although, of course, those sold separately on the PSP. But I would definitely pick Anthology out of those three. He goes on to say, by the way, I agree with Chris about this being the most enjoyable show on YouTube. It sure as hell beats listening to the radio or whatever. Well, I thank you for that comment. 2006 Socrates says, will you ever do a Zelda Ocarina of Time playthrough in the near future? No, not in the near future. In the far, far distant future, I might consider doing that, but as for now, that is not something that I have planned. And I think I said that in the past, but let me just say it again. I'm not planning on doing any more Zelda playthroughs for quite a while, and the next one that I would probably do would probably be Ocarina of Time, but or I might do something different, like I might do like Four Swords Adventures or something, but definitely not for a long time. I have so many things planned, and so much of it has nothing to do with Zelda. So, I mean, I've done 4 Zelda games already for full playthroughs, so, you know, now I'm kind of concentrating on maybe doing more Castlevania games. I got Circle of the Moon coming up, and more Mega Man games. I've done Mega Man 1, and definitely am planning on doing Mega Man 2 sometime in the future, sooner rather than later. So that's what's going on there. And, of course, other games. Right now I'm doing Lufia, I got other things planned. So I'm really not looking to do Ocarina of Time anytime soon. So let's see what else we got. Brunob, maybe it's Brunob1, says, Necro, why aren't you a partner? Well, I've gotten into this in the past, but let me answer that here. I have gotten many partnership offers. And I think I've gotten 17 separate offers for partnership from YouTube to date. And a lot of people wonder, you know, what exactly is the criteria? What gets you the partnership offer? And I'm going to tell you that now because I've gotten a lot of them. It has nothing to do with how many views your videos get. That can be an indicator, because if you get a video that becomes very popular very quickly, it may wind up on the front page, and that would get the attention of YouTube people. And, you know, basically it comes down to YouTube people, you know, browsing around videos, and they find one that they like, and they send a partnership offer to that person. It has nothing to do with how many likes or dislikes a video gets, or how many comments or anything to do with that. It is strictly like you basically have to get discovered. It has nothing to do with how many subscribers you have or how many friends you have or anything like that. There's no numbers involved. The reason that I've turned it down is because the YouTube partnership, the rules are different for the partners. Basically, you know, you guys know that I do a lot of cursing in my videos, and it's not something that I set out to, you know, say that I'm definitely going to be cursing a lot of my videos, but it's just kind of the way I am, especially when playing video games. I just kind of let it all hang out, and I'm making a conscious effort to be funny, and a lot of people find cursing to be funny, especially when you do kind of like, you know, the non-standard curses. I mean, it's part of why, like, AVGN is so popular. I mean, personally, I think that, you know, he's funny with or without the cursing, but that's part of what made him popular. And you can't really curse. Like, if you notice the YouTube partners, they will curse, but they will bleep it. And I don't want to have to sit there and bleep it, not only because I think it sounds lame, but because it's just, you know, then it becomes way too time-consuming to edit a video, and it's not something that I really want to spend a whole lot of time in. Now, I know, obviously, you'd be more motivated to spend time on something if you're making money off of it. But then there's the fact that they would basically go ahead and delete all the videos that don't make their criteria, which is most of them. So, you know, really, I don't feel like being a YouTube partner as of yet. So that's to answer that question. But it's been offered to me many times. Cobra DVS says, hey Necro, good show once more. Thanks for answering my question for the next episode. What is your opinion on the Evil Dead trilogy? And if you're a fan, what are your thoughts on the remake? And for that matter, what is your opinion on the trend in Hollywood of remaking past films? I really don't have much of a problem with a remake as long as it's done well. I think it can draw attention to the original. Remakes, sometimes they're as good as the original, sometimes they're better, a lot of times they're not nearly as good. But I really have no problem with remakes. A lot of people who are into movies, they remakes suck, and they get all up in arms about it, but I think that's kind of pointless. Obviously, they work, they make a lot of money, and people want to see them, so bitching about it's not going to do anything. Evil Dead, yeah, I liked the first two. I thought the third one was kind of a completely different movie, and I did like it, but it does kind of throw you off as to how different it is. The remake, I don't know. I mean, is it going to be like the first one, or is it going to be like the third one, Army of Darkness? And another thing because that's the one that everybody saw. That was the one that was popular. I know people who I'm such a big Evil Dead fan, and they haven't actually seen the first two movies. They've only seen Army of Darkness. And an interesting thing is Evil Dead, the first movie, which is called The Evil Dead, was actually a remake itself of another movie that he had done, which was almost the same exact movie, but with a lower budget. I forget what it's called, like Cabin in the Woods or some shit. But that's just an interesting thing to think about. Dark Philic 28 asks me, he asked me what are my top 5 stand-up comedians and top 5 overrated movies. Guys, and I told him this, don't ask me questions like this. Don't ask me to make lists, because I would just like to read the question and answer it and move on. I don't want to have to sit there and put a lot of thought into it and make like a whole fucking list. So I told him that. He says, well, just pick one. So, like, a stand-up comedian that I'm a really big fan of, let's see, there's so many. If I was to just pick one, I used to be a big fan of Mitch Hedberg. Of course, he's dead now, but he was extremely funny, so I'll use him for that. Overrated movies, there's a lot of overrated movies out there. The most overrated movie I've ever seen is a movie called Trainspotting, which got amazing reviews, made a bunch of money, put Ewan McGregor on the map. I saw it, I thought it sucked ass. So there you have it. Payote says, great show yet again. I was wondering, since you like fighting games, what do you think of the Dead or Alive series? I don't really like the Dead or Alive games. I think it's just all about jiggly boobs, and there's no actual, like, really good fighting engine in there. So, I'm not really much for many of the 3D fighters. Ironically, the 3D fighters that I like tend to be the ones like Mortal Kombat or Soul Calibur, while everything else, I prefer the 2D fighters. J.E. Smith says, have you ever bought any video game art books, particularly ones such as Mega Man Complete Works that show blah, 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 blah? No, I haven't. And he goes into it, he says the downside is that they tend to be on the pricey side. Well, yeah, even if I was interested in something like that, and I'm really not, but even if I was interested in something like that, I'm not about to spend $40 on a book with just pictures of Mega Man and whatnot. It just doesn't interest me that much. It doesn't interest me at all. Amaranthus616 says, oh, I didn't expect you to read my comment out. Haha. Well, you probably didn't expect me to read this one either. I was just remarking on the question I PM'd you earlier in the last episode, and your reply to that about Spirit Destiny made me think a little more about it. But yeah, great episode once more. Nice show to listen to. The Hood Rider says, what rap artists do you like? Why do you think that I like rap? I don't really like rap. There's some, like if I hear a good song, I'll get into it. Yeah, okay, that's a good song. But I don't think I've never bought a rap album. I'm really more of a heavy metal guy. I listen to like a lot of different types of music, though. I mean, there's no type of music that I'm going to say that I don't like. Like a lot of people say, oh, I like everything, but I don't like rap and I don't like country. But the thing is that there is country that I like and there is rap that I like, but I don't. But it's really, with country I really like Johnny Cash and whatnot. But with rap, it's just like if I hear a song and it's good to me, then I don't really know who the artist is. I don't really go out of my way to listen to a lot of rap, so I'm definitely not what you call a rap fan. Nightwing 45304 says, great show as always, Necro. What's your favorite type of weapon in any Final Fantasy game? I prefer the more unorthodox weapons. I guess so you mean things like in like Final Fantasy 13, where Vinnie attacked with like a weird triple fishing rod thing and whatnot. I kind of dig that, but I don't know. It's weird. I guess it's weird because I tend to like two types of characters. I tend to like the monk type characters, which are the ones that just fight without weapons. and I tend to like the ninja type characters that throw things. So like like Edge or Shadow or Yuffie or whatever. They tend to be very powerful. So I tend to like that a lot, throwing weapons and such. So there's your answer to that. Chris Collett 222 says, "Great show, Necro. I had fun being on the show. Can't wait for next season to be back on." Well, that's gonna be a while, but we still got more episodes in this season. God Savant says, "Man, I only just listened to the last episode yesterday, and here's a new one. Nice." Well, that's what happens. It's every week. Monk237 says, "Much love and respect to Japan. My little sister said she heard the creator of Pokemon is missing. I can neither confirm nor deny that. Just want your listeners to send as much good mojo to Japan as they can." Absolutely. And I got to say that the games industry has been really great about it, auctioning off things for charity and whatnot. I haven't heard about this creator of Pokemon, and I do scour news sites for video game news, and I'm sure I would have heard that. So I think that's just a baseless rumor. But yeah, definitely, we're all hoping that Japan recovers from this really well. Of course, when I get into the sales figures, you'll see, in the past couple of weeks you've seen it, and you definitely see it this week. The sales figures in Japan are very low because obviously they have bigger fish to fry over there. They have much bigger problems. So hopefully they'll bounce back. And he says, "Once again, Necro, great show, and much thanks for answering my questions. I'll see about getting on Skype, and maybe we can have us a chat on the Necro show one day." Well, I'd love that. Dave Cornfan says, "That song at the beginning from Transformers was epic." I know, right? Being a Nightmare on Elm Street fan, what would your favorite of the films be? What would be your favorite of the films? Mine is number 3, Dream Warriors. Definitely the first one. The first one, it was the scariest, it was the best. I also really like the remake, so that's another thing, remakes and everything. I really did like the remake that starred Jackie Earle Haley instead of Robert Englund. I thought he was a great Freddy Krueger. I know what you mean about getting silly eventually, leading to Freddy's Dead, which was more or less a comedy. Now you're playing with power, bitch. You play the Freddy drinking game. Every time he says bitch, you gotta do a shot. But I don't mind that movie. A lot of Freddy fans hate it. I also like the remake. It would be good to see a sequel. Absolutely. Mr. Lover of Ganja says, "Who would you say the most influential guitarist is?" For me, I'd say either Hendrix or Chuck Berry. Hendrix is definitely very influential. For most influential guitarist of all time, I thought Jimmy Page is also really influential. I think I would give it to Jimmy Page because there's so many guitarists that have tried to be Jimmy Page throughout the years, so that's probably the answer to that. Man, YouTube is behaving very strangely today. Just noticing that. I uploaded a video, and it hasn't told me that it's done yet, but I'm getting comments on it, so obviously it's done. Weird. Sora, I think that's your name, he says, "Question, do you like the Fire Emblem games? And how do you think they compare to games like Tactics Ogre? I personally prefer the Fire Emblem games, how much more fast-paced it is in the animations and the fights, and I like how you could easily 1 or 2 hit-kill enemies and die yourself. On Tactics Ogre, you generally have to take 4+ hits to kill a guy." I do like the Tactics Ogre games, and I do like the Fire Emblem games. I think I like the Tactics Ogre games a little bit more, but they're both great series. I'm a big fan of strategy games like those two, and Final Fantasy Tactics and stuff like that. So that's my bread and butter. So I am definitely a big fan. I think I like Tactics Ogre a little bit more, but they're both great games. DJ Big MC says, "Sorry if this is a bit off topic, no big deal, but just curious if you've ever seen the film Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe and your thoughts on it." And I haven't seen it. And he says, for those who think that's weird, it is a boxing movie, not about Cinderella. No, I haven't seen Cinderella Man. Joe X90 says, "What do you think about eSport? Cool or lame?" I have no idea what that is, so we're moving on there. Doughboy Langelis says, "Hey Nick," he hasn't corrected me on his name yet, so I guess he doesn't care, or that's what it is. He says, "Hey Nick, a great episode as always. As a first-time viewer of the VMX show, I just want to know how long a season is." It's 12 episodes. I already answered him, but I figured I'd say it here so everybody else knows. Every season's going to be 12 episodes. And finally, Chris Collett 222 came back to ask, he has a music request. He wanted to hear Ninja Gaiden 2 on the NES, the Act 2. Yeah, I'll see what I can do about that. We'll see about playing that later in the show. So, yeah. So let's get to the news. So, of course, the big news is the 3DS launch, which is today, March 27th, Sunday. They had the big early morning or late night, depending on how you look at it, party in New York City at Best Buy. Good luck to anybody who's going out to get a 3DS. My friend Brandy, she's actually my ex-girlfriend, she got a 3DS, and I said she wanted one really badly because her DS broke. I just want to talk about this briefly. Her DS broke. I think her kid broke it or something, and she's really upset because the DS is her favorite system ever. She loves playing it. And it cracks me up. And she said, I want to get a new one and all this. And I said, well, you might as well just wait for the 3DS. And she decided, yeah, it's a good idea. But she was getting really excited. And a couple of days ago, she was like, oh, I'm so excited. And I said, you got to be careful about this. You might not get one on launch day. It's going to be difficult. But she has her ways of getting things, and she did manage to get one. And she posted a picture on Facebook of her holding up the 3DS and giving me the finger. So I thought that was kind of funny. I asked her, did you get any games for it? She hasn't got any games for it because she said she wasn't interested in the launch titles, but she's playing her DS games on it and fooling around with the apps on it, having a lot of fun. So she's happy about that. Of course, the only bad thing is, it doesn't play Game Boy Advance games, but, whatever. So let's move on to the news. Of course, that's the big news, but let's move on to our news stories. There's this one really goes under a rumor. We don't know if this is confirmed or not, but it seems that the roster for Street Fighter vs. Tekken, or Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which is what they want you to call it, has been leaked. Of course, they're working on two games, a Street Fighter Cross Tekken and the Tekken Cross Street Fighter, with Street Fighter Cross Tekken being developed by Capcom and the other one being developed by Namco. But this is the Capcom one, the one that's coming out first, and they saying that this is a leak, so we don't know how true it is, and this might not be the final version of the lineup. Characters may be removed, characters may be added, and they did say that some of these characters seem to be unfinished. But so far, this is what might be what we're looking at for the Street Fighter lineup: Ryu, Ken, Guile, Chun-Li, M. Bison, Akuma, Dan, Dalsim, Vega, Abel, Cammy, Karen, and Sakura. Of course, Karen being interesting, she hasn't shown up since Street Fighter Alpha 3. As a matter of fact, that was the only game that she's appeared in, so that's kind of interesting. And they're saying that they've seen artwork in the game for Zangief, Alex, and Hugo, so they might be added to the game, but we're not really sure. For the Tekken side, we're looking at Kazuya, Jin, Nina, Paul, Christy, Heihachi, Jun, Yoshimitsu, Zafina, King, Forest Law, Ling, Huarang, Brian, Ganyu, and Martial Law. So that may be the Street Fighter Cross Tekken lineup. So that's it. I guess, I don't know if you call this good news or bad news. I think it's good news. Bad news for some people, I guess. For BioShock Infinite will not contain any form of motion control. So no support for PlayStation Move, no support for Kinect, nothing like that. This is confirmed by Ken Levine. He's the creative director and co-founder of Irrational Games, who's developing BioShock Infinite. And he was asked by PlayStation Magazine about the possibility of Move being used for it. And he says no, he feels that if you did that, gamers would feel cheated. So this is what he said exactly. I'd never want to throw in Move support just because it's going to make some first party happy or because some marketing department wants it on the box, because at the end of the day, gamers know. If you don't have anything special to say about the control device, gamers are going to know. So he did say he's open to having 3D support, so we'll see about that. Good news for Resident Evil fans. I actually have two Resident Evil stories here. The first is that we will be getting HD re-releases of Resident Evil Code Veronica and Resident Evil 4. Of course, Resident Evil Code Veronica was originally on the Dreamcast and was straight ported to GameCube. So basically, it's a very aged game that has Dreamcast quality graphics. That's going to now get an HD uplift, I guess, a facelift. And Resident Evil 4, originally on GameCube, later appeared on PlayStation 2 and the Wii and PC. That's also getting a bit of a facelift. I've seen the comparison screens. It does look cool. So, yeah. I should mention that it's coming on one disc. It's 2 games on one disc, and it's called the Resident Evil Revival Selection HD Remastered version. So, there you go. We're hoping that the code is coming from the GameCube version, which actually looked better than the PS2 version and the Wii version, I thought. So kind of interesting. Or maybe they could take it from the PC version, which looked pretty cool. So we'll see what happens with that. Other Resident Evil news, there is a new Resident Evil game coming out, a spin-off called Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, which will be coming to PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. That one takes place around the same time as the first Resident Evil, and from what I understand, there's some multiplayer in it, up to 4 players, and it is more of an action game. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting, the way that works out. Of course, it's sort of a natural successor to the Resident Evil Outbreak games, which were on PS2. So yeah, Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City coming to PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 sometime in the future. For those of you who got the 3DS, this is a big one. The 3DS store is not going to be ready until late spring. Basically, they want it to be a big improvement over the Wii store and the DSi store. So they're still working on it. So, yeah, that's so if you're looking for that feature on your 3DS, don't expect it to be there yet. So we'll see what's happening with that. The NPD Group, of course, the NPD Group is this big media outfit for releasing electronics sales figures. They have released the top 10 best-selling games of this generation, which goes as far back as PlayStation 2, and this is by gross sales, which means not the amount of copies sold, but the amount of money made, which makes Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock the best-selling game of all time, according to them, in this generation, and the biggest selling game of all time in terms of gross sales, of course, because of the bundled versions being more money. Also on the list, Call of Duty Black Ops, Wii Fit, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Rock Band, Wii Play with the Wii Remote, Guitar Hero World Tour, Wii Fit Plus, Mario Kart Wii with the Wheel, and Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. A lot of Activision on there. Activision and Nintendo. They're the biggest sellers, I guess. That's what's going on. Say what you will about Activision, but they are moving games. Good news for fans of classic games. Haven't had anything really amazing coming out for Virtual Console in a while, but coming soon to Virtual Console, Mega Man X from Capcom and Chrono Trigger from Square Enix will both be released on Virtual Console. Kind of interesting about Chrono Trigger because this is sort of on the back of the DS version, and of course this is going to be the Super NES version. So that's kind of interesting, and Mega Man X is a big deal. I think that should have been on the Virtual Console a long, long time ago. They're coming to Virtual Console Japan April of this year. We don't know if it's coming to America, but God, I hope so, especially for Mega Man X. That's a big deal. Back to the 3DS for a little bit. The pre-orders for this are insane. It is officially the most pre-ordered console of all time, and the pre-orders are twice what the Wii had at this point. Amazon UK, I talked about this last week, said the pre-orders were twice of that of the Wii, well prior to the launch, and 200,000 units were sold over the weekend just on Amazon UK alone. The 3DS sold 375,000 units in the first 2 days in Japan. I think it's going to be just as big, if not bigger, here in America, especially since we don't have problems with quakes and tsunamis and nuclear reactors, which are affecting sales negatively in Japan. Here's some Street Fighter 4 news. Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition has new character. Of course, we knew about Yun and Yang, and now they've added Evil Ryu, who's gotten kind of an interesting look to him. He's got like this hole in his chest or something from what I'm looking at. So kind of interesting. No news yet on whether or not the arcade characters such as Yun Yang and Evil Ryu are going to be coming to Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. They said they will eventually make it there at some point, but probably as downloadable content. But no hard news on that yet. Final news story about the 3DS. that I wanted to talk about. Of course, a lot of people are buying the 3DS, but not necessarily picking up any of the launch games, either because they can't get their hands on them, or they're just not interested in those games. They want to wait for Kid Icarus or whatever. So a lot of people are playing their original DS games on it, but you might have noticed that the original DS games kind of look like crap on the 3DS because the 3DS has a much higher resolution. So you're basically blowing up the games, causing them to look very blurry and or pixelated. So this is a little trick that's been all over the place, but not everybody knows, so I'm going to mention it here. If you want to play your DS games on the 3DS and not have them look like crap, play them in their original resolution, here's how you do it. Just insert your cartridge as normal, turn it on. Now hold either the start or the select button and then click on your DS game icon on your 3DS launch screen. And boom, you're going to be playing them in their full original resolution. Keep in mind they won't take up the whole screen because it is smaller, but it'll look better. So, there's that. Also, I wanted to mention about the region. The 3DS was not, the DS rather, was not region locked, so you can play games from Japan, you can play games from Europe, and vice versa. The 3DS is region locked, so you can't play Japanese or European games on an American 3DS, but you can still play Japanese or European DS games on your 3DS. Of course, because the DS cards didn't have any sort of lockout mechanism, but the 3DS games do. So if you're looking to upgrade from a DS Lite or a DSi to a 3DS, and you're somebody who has a bunch of imported games and you're wondering about that, you still be able to play your imported games, even though you won't be able to play new imported 3DS games. So that's what's going on with that. And my final news story has to do with the NGP, formerly known as PSP2. We really don't know what it's going to be called, but the NGP, New Generation PlayStation. Apparently, I talked about this briefly a couple of episodes ago about how the games are going to be coming. We think that they're going to be shipped on some sort of SD card, and it looks like Sony's not abandoning their digital plans, and they're saying that all games that appear physically will be made available digitally. According to... who's saying this? I'm looking at this. Alright, I don't know who's saying this, but it's somebody from... Oh, the guy's name is House. Okay. Andrew House from Sony Europe. He said, just to clarify, all games that appear physically will be made available digitally. Not necessarily all games have to be made available physically. And having the option of a digital-only method affords more creative risk-taking, and that's because you don't have that built-in risk of physical inventory. Well, I think he's an idiot, but... it's good to know that for those of you who do want to download games, that they will be available simultaneously with the physical release. But I say if the physical releases are there, why not get them? That's just a better idea. So let's see. We have a guest on the show. Vinnie came by. Let's get to that segment now. And we're going to welcome Vinnie to the show. How you doing, Vinnie?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Well, you know how it is. I'm doing all right. And I actually, you commented about this on last week's show, and I commented on your username, Xboxitude. That's your channel, right?
That is my channel.
Would you tell me a little bit about what you do on the channel?
Yeah, I focus more on like the modern day playthroughs because I have a PVR, so I record everything off of my Xbox 360.
Okay.
I'm kind of new into the whole live commentary thing, so yeah, I kind of realize how hard it is to both play a game and commentate it over it at the same time, and it's quite difficult.
You play badly when you do it, you know? You don't play it to your usual standard.
Especially if it's a game that you've never played before.
Oh, that could be a nightmare. And then I get the comments like, "Oh, you really suck at this." I'm like, shut up. Who cares? Who gives a damn?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. How much does a setup like that cost? The capture card and all that.
If you want an HD one like I have, it's about $200 for it.
Okay, give me the cheap ass version.
the cheap ass version that'll record at like 480 would be like
Yeah.
$80. If
Yeah, because
it could be even less.
that's reasonable. Because if it's going to go on YouTube, there's no sense in doing HD, really.
Well, I mean, my HD videos are huge sometimes. Like a 15-minute video is 2 gigabytes.
Yeah, and I got no time to be uploading 2 gigabytes. But
Yeah.
okay, so like, what kind of games do you do on there?
Well, right now I only have 3 playthroughs up. One of them is of Red Dead Redemption. The second
That's a
one
good
is of Stacking. It's a Xbox Live Arcade game.
With
And
a
the
name
third
like that,
one-
it has to be.
Yeah, the third one is Homefront, which
Okay.
was just released last week. I did a little bit of the collectibles guide for that as well.
Yeah.
So that's getting quite a bit of viewership right now.
And Homefront's like the latest hot Xbox game. How are you enjoying it?
I enjoyed the single player. I haven't really played the multiplayer yet because I'm not playing it on my main account because my main gamer tag is kind of like an achievement whore gamer tag completionist kind of thing.
I see, yeah.
So yeah, but like I enjoyed the single player. It was kind of difficult to get into it first because I did play a lot of Black Ops, and like the graphical quality between the two is different, and the way that the game plays itself is also different.
Oh, of course, completely different engine.
Yeah. So, but it was very enjoyable.
Okay, and you wanted to talk about you're into fighting games, you said, right?
Well, just recently, since Street Fighter 4, I've kind of been into fighting games. It was actually came from my roommate that I used to live with. He was just like, "Hey, you have the Xbox 360." Actually, at that point, I had 2, so one was in the living room. Why don't you get Street Fighter 4 and we'll all play and have a good time? So I got it, and I was absolutely terrible at it at first, and I actually think that I'm still kind of terrible at it. But I'm kind of getting into it. I have a stick now, so it's really helping out in like getting the motions
Did you
down
ever
right.
play in the arcade?
Very briefly, like some of the other ones, but like.
So who talked you into
I
dropping $60 on one of those sticks?
I did.
Oh, okay.
That was
Well, I was going to say
yeah.
whoever talked you into that, just kick them in the balls.
Well, I mean, I enjoy playing with it. Like it gives it a good feel.
I kind of have like a thing about that. It seems to me that a lot of people seem to think that if you play with the fight stick, you're going to be better. And really, it has nothing to do with anything. I think the reason that people who play with them are better is because those are the serious players who play in the arcades, and that's what they're used to. So they don't want to sit there with an Xbox controller. So,
Well, I think that the Xbox controller is very hard to use. I think the motions are very hard to perform on them,
I think
just because the
you-
analog is very sensitive, and
I've
the
never had a
D-pad is
problem with
terrible.
it. I don't know. Well, I don't use the D-pad. I use the analog stick. I never had a problem
Yeah.
with it personally. I had a problem with it on the PlayStation. I didn't like the analog stick there, but that has a great D-pad, so it was no big deal.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
The
so you got
PlayStation
kinda
3
into-
D-pad.
Well, it's the same. It's the same thing. They just released the same controller over and over again.
Yeah.
PS1, PS2, PS3. It's all the same thing.
Oh
They
yeah.
haven't changed that controller. The only thing they changed is they took the rumble out.
But
which
they have it
cracks
back
me
in
up.
now, right?
I heard that they were putting it back in, but I don't have a PS3, so I don't know if they've actually done it yet.
Right. I think it was first released in Japan. I think my buddy got one of the Japanese controllers, and he said it's pretty good.
Oh, that's cool. So that was was that kind of your first foray into fighting games, or had you played any of them previously?
Well, I emulated a little bit of the Mortal Kombat, and I was never really good at them on the Genesis.
Okay.
But yeah, that's about it.
So what other games have you gotten into since Street Fighter 4?
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 being the latest
big
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big one.
It's a shame because I never played the other two. But
Well,
I'm enjoying
yeah.
it. I find
You could
that
actually
there's
get
a lot more. Sorry. Go ahead.
you could actually get them on Xbox Live Arcade, was what I was going to say.
Yes, you can. So I might look into doing that. But I feel like Marvel vs. Capcom has a lot more, I want to say cheese, as opposed to Street
it's all
Fighter.
about that. Yeah, definitely. Well, Street Fighter is like a kind of a deep fighting engine, and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is just like, oh, here's all this insane shit all over the screen.
Yeah. And
they're both fun.
And I mean,
definitely
like they both have their own
preference.
balancing effects as well.
Yes.
Like Super Street Fighter 4 has like that hardcore damage scale, and like
Yes.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 does have the hit stun scaling.
Yes, that's true. So it's very, even though they sort of run on similar engines, very different play styles.
Yeah. Yes.
Any games coming out that you're very looking forward to?
I know that the arcade edition of Super Street Fighter 4 is coming out soon.
I think that I read that
Like,
was actually going to be a DLC
Oh.
because it's just two new characters.
Oh,
and some
Yun and
tweaks.
Yang.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going to make you buy a whole nother game.
Right. Okay.
So
but I mean,
think
like
that's going to be DLC.
I actually have a joke about that, which I kind
Let's
of
hear
read
it.
off of one of the forums. Is that like eventually, because like Super Street Fighter 2 had all of those kind of remakes and things, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like eventually they're gonna have like 8 different games for Street Fighter 4. So it's gonna be called like Super Street Fighter 4 Turbo HD Hyper Fighter Remix, the Tournament Arcade Edition.
Mocha cappuccino. That's what I always say when I do that joke. Yeah, you know, it's funny. When Super Street Fighter 4 came out, I remember there was a rep from Capcom. I don't remember exactly who it is. But he said that that would be the last one in the Street Fighter 4 series. And then, you know, the arcade one comes out, and the 3DS one comes out, or will come out. So it's like, yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
You see, there were 6 versions of Street Fighter 2 in the arcade, and that's not even counting all the console ones.
Like, wow, that's so many.
Yeah, so that, you know, and one of them was actually Japan only. That was the Hyper Street Fighter 2.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, it's on Dreamcast, but then once again, that's only in Japan. But, yeah. What other games are you into other than fighting games?
I'm into mostly like the Call of Duty shooters. Like I like the Battlefield series. I'm excited for Battlefield 3.
That's coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, I like the occasional RPG. The most recent one that I'm playing right now is Fallout 3.
That's
just
that's a big one.
I hear it's better than Vegas, so and it came first, so I figure I might as well play through it first. And one of my buddies has been pressuring me to play it for like 2 years now.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah, so I finally
Shut
caved.
up already. I'll play when I
finally
get to it.
caved.
Well, I have a friend that does that, but he's usually right, so...
Yeah, but I mean,
He was the one pushing me, like, you know, about Batman Arkham Asylum, and finally I played it and I loved it, so I should listen to him.
The RPG that I played previously was Eternal Sonata. It was
I
like
haven't
the
played
turn-based
that,
one.
so I'm curious, how was that?
I thought it was absolutely fantastic, not just because I'm a big fan of the turn-based RPGs, but also because it gave a bit of musical history, because it's based upon like some dream world that Frédéric Chopin was in before his death.
Yeah,
And
hence the name Sonata.
Yeah, so actually, but in Japan, it was called Trusty Bell.
Well, they're weird. I mean, you know, I
Figure
love
that one out,
Japan, I
Vinnie.
love the culture, I love the video games and everything, but when it comes down to it, they're friggin' weird.
Yeah.
Trusty Bell, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, that's weird.
Other than those ones, like I played the Gears of War.
Okay.
I played my favorite game so far on the Xbox 360 was Earth Defense Force,
I've
and it was
even heard of that one.
oh, it's like it has like the worst graphics, and like it's like third person, but it is probably the funnest game that I've ever played on the Xbox 360. It was
That's all that
published.
matters is that
Yeah,
it's fun.
it was published by D3, and they're coming out with the sequel. Actually, it was a sequel, but they're coming out with another one later this year that I'm really excited for. It's called Insect Armageddon, and basically
Are
you're
they gonna put
just
a little more polish on it, or is it going to be the same kind of?
it looks
look
a
to
lot
it.
more polished, and it looks
That's
like it has a ton more features. But like it's all about like this futuristic battle against massive ants. Is
Oh, that
pretty
sounds
much
fun.
pretty much sums it right up right there.
Right now I'm playing a game called the Conduit, which is sort of like that whole, alien invasion, first-person shooter kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was just playing that right before we started this interview, and I got pissed off, and I, threw the Wiimote, and...
That's
yeah.
newer, isn't it?
Well, no, it came out in 2009. I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm playing it because there's a sequel coming out very soon.
Oh, that's right. You were talking about that in one of the other shows, I think.
Yeah, the Conduit, because it's coming out on the same day as Mortal Kombat and Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah.
Which are 3 games that I want a lot. But I might wait on Conduit 2, I don't know. Because I'm not waiting on Mortal Kombat.
I think I'm going to get Mortal Kombat right as it comes in as well, because it's another one of those fighting games that I'm trying to get into more,
And, I'm a fan of the Mortal Kombat series. I've played them all, and... I have a kind of an unusual opinion on it. I think that the first few games were actually very overrated, and that the 3D ones are very underrated. But I think, this one does go back to the roots and everything, but I think it looks like it's going to be the best one.
Excellent. I am definitely looking forward to playing it.
A friend of mine on YouTube, Video Games, he did a playthrough of the demo, so you might want to check that out on his channel.
I think I will.
Yeah, I linked to it on my channel. I got that channels that don't suck, where it's like all my friends' channels.
Yeah, channels that
most
don't
of them
suck.
are my friends.
I like that.
I figured I didn't want to just put something like, oh, these are channels.
Yeah, other people that are there. Yeah.
The worst. I like that new feature on YouTube, but the worst thing about it is they've evolved the sub for sub. Now it's like link for link, and I get emails all the time, people asking me to do link for link with them, and I just ignore it.
Yeah, it's all bullshit anyway.
It's like, what, I'm going to link to your channel that has like one video?
Or like sub for subs especially, because sure, you can get 1,000 subs that way, but is anybody actually watching your videos?
See, that's the thing, and I'm not going to sub to someone if I'm not going to watch their videos, because I don't want my page cluttered up with a whole bunch of crap that I'm not going to look at.
Right.
I use the subscriptions.
Yes. Which is why I'm proud to say on my channel that I've never subbed for subbed, except for people who, I know more.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you want to see their videos.
Yes, definitely.
And, people, they make a big deal about, I got this many subscriptions, I got that many subscriptions, and it's like, well, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
I really like your channel because you do a lot of old school gaming that I really hadn't done too much of, because I'm 21 and I really only started gaming a lot when I was about 16, when I first got my Xbox 360.
Was that your first console?
Kind of not. It was the first console that I owned personally. When I went over to my dad's place, he had the Sega Genesis. So I played Sonic. I played the Echo the Dolphin game.
Terrible game.
I had the handheld.
I just want to grind Echo the Dolphin up in a tuna fish sandwich.
Yeah, but I had the handhelds. So I played the Pokemon, and I played Wario on the Game Boy Color. Wario Land 3 was my game. I love that.
That's a great game. That is a great game. Did you ever play the one after that, Wario Land 4 on Game Boy Advance?
I didn't.
Very good
but,
game.
I think I should probably start up my emulators again and see what I can do there.
Yeah, that one's worth getting into.
I think, I also borrowed my buddy's Nintendo 64, so I played Super Mario 64, obviously, and I still regard that as one of the best games ever in existence.
Really?
I think so.
I don't know. I thought it was overrated because I thought that the controls weren't really all that great.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
I always felt that it was awkward, and then I played another game on the N64 called Banjo-Kazooie, and I thought that was a huge improvement. I was like, this is what Mario 64 should have been.
Right, and I played a little bit of Banjo-Kazooie, but I mean, to me they're two different kind of styles of games. But
well, they're similar. It's the same shit.
Yeah,
instead of coins, you collect notes. Instead of stars, it's jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah.
It's the same game.
But
It's better.
yeah, I also played a little bit of the PlayStation 1 because my uncle had one. And the most notable game that I played was Legend of Dragoon. That was another turn-based RPG.
And that's an unusual one because that one was actually made by Sony.
Yes, and I actually thought that game was also friggin' fantastic, but it doesn't seem like it has much popularity, or mainly because it came in
what it was?
like
It came out around the same time as Final Fantasy VIII.
yeah, and was that also like around the time like the PlayStation 1 was kind of like they weren't making too many games for it because they were going to try to start...
that was right in the
I thought
that was right in like the heart of it. That was like PlayStation era right there.
All right, I might be getting my my eras mixed up then.
No, that was the #1 system right then. I mean, PS2 was not even really thought about yet.
Okay.
I don't think the Dreamcast was out.
Okay, but
yeah,
yeah.
Legend of Dragoon. I never played it personally. I have it laying around somewhere. I've heard it's very good though.
I thought it was fantastic. I didn't really play much PlayStation 2, just like when I was at a friend's house. Nor did I play any of the original Xbox because like I'd never had one. My parents were.
I wasn't a fan of the original Xbox.
I was very sheltered as a gamer when I was a child because my parents thought I was going to get addicted to it, which I did when I got my Xbox 360. So they were right, but I mean, I kind of lost a lot of time that I could have been gaming when I was younger, in my opinion.
You're just making up for lost time, that's all.
Oh, definitely.
It doesn't sound like you're addicted. It sounds like you got it under control.
Oh well, you know, I like playing games, you know.
Yeah. What did I want to ask you? You mentioned, you mentioned Legend of the Dragoon. You mentioned something else, and I was going to ask you about it, but now it's flown through my mind. So just keep talking.
Okay. And more recently, since this whole YouTube thing, since I've been watching a lot of gameplay, I kind of got a little bit into eSports.
Okay.
Like, if you've ever been on Justin TV, there's Peaceful J's Coliseum, who always runs like Street Fighter. Like they're not necessarily tournaments.
You're talking Greek to me right now. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, well, there's this guy who runs like a constant 24-hour live stream of the Street Fighter 4, what do they call it?
He has no
endless
life,
battle. The endless battle. Like he's not there. He just streams it constantly.
Yeah, I get you.
Right? And I mean, since I'm not like a good Street Fighter player, like it's kind of interesting to go in there and just see people just own everything. You know?
Have you ever seen the tournament videos from things like Evo?
I saw. Okay, when I was first getting into fighting games, I saw the Evo 2004 Daigo Umeharo versus Justin Wong match, and I mean
that was good. Yeah.
When Daigo's ultimate comeback when he had like 1 pixel of health left.
Yeah. Yeah.
When the crowd's just like fucking going nuts and stuff.
That was crazy. I mean. That's to tell you, never give up, even if you only have a little bit of health. Never give up.
Absolutely, and I thought that was absolutely insane. Like when that happened.
There's very few people who are anywhere on the level of where Daigo is. He's like probably the best Street Fighter player in this country.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That was. I remember I don't know if it was the first Street Fighter 4 Evo. I think it might have been the first or the second that they had Street Fighter 4. And it came down to him and Justin Wong, as it usually does, and it was funny because he was playing Balrog, the American character, and Justin Wong, who's Japanese, was playing as Ryu.
Yeah.
And I was rooting for Daigo, but he lost, but it was a good loss, you know. It's not like he got owned.
Oh yeah, it's when it comes down to those two ever facing in a match, like it's always going to be good.
Justin Wong usually wins, though. It's just the way it comes down to it. I guess he's just a little bit better.
Just a little bit, but
yeah.
Yes. Daigo, yeah, definitely. They're both excellent fighters.
And these are guys that, I mean, it's serious. They make a lot of money off of this.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
It's kind of like a little kid's dream to make money playing video games.
That's always going to be the dream, though, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't really happen to too many people, though.
No, that doesn't.
You got to be either Japanese or really amazing.
Yes, and or be like it. Right now, it seems like a lot of people are getting sponsored by like Machinima, doing all those shooter gameplays and stuff.
Yeah.
And apparently, they're making money off of that, either by YouTube partnership or through Machinima, and that's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Like, there's so many people out there.
It is, yeah. Well, it's advertising dollars. That's all it comes down to. A lot of people ask me, like, why haven't I accepted the partnership offers that I get? And I tell first off, if I do it, every time you go to my videos, you're going to have to look at an ad first.
I thought you had the option, like, I don't know because I'm not a partner, but I thought you had the option to set it just as, like, those pop-up ads, as opposed to, like, a full video ad.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, but it does take up the lower portion of the video.
Yeah.
And, most people use ad blockers anyway. I'd never see those ads anyway. And, then I couldn't, they have a family-friendly policy anyway, so I couldn't say all the great, words that I love to say.
Yes.
And, it's not like I go out and I say, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to curse like a sailor, but, when you're trying to play something, sometimes it just happens.
Yes, it does. And I know that from experience.
I mean, like I said, I was playing the Conduit before, and I got shot, like, for the billionth time, and I think I called it a fuck stork, and that's when I decided to come do the interview. Because I was getting pissed off. Aliens have... You know what, it's funny? It starts you out, you're fighting, like, humans and everything, and they're very stupid. Like, there's really no AI in the game. They just stand there and shoot at you.
Right.
So you're thinking this is easy, and then when you start fighting the aliens, they're actually much smarter. So
I love how they do that, though. Like, each level kind of can get harder, though, depending on the enemy.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Well, what drives me crazy is there's these little tiny guys that they're grenades themselves, then they roll at you really fast, and they're very small targets. And once they come up to you, they explode.
So they're pretty much suicides.
Yeah, and if that doesn't kill you, it knocks a good portion of your health off. So.
Oh, definitely.
And it's very hard to find cover sometimes, so...
Yeah.
It's funny, is that you'd think that the Wii would be a console where you'd see a lot of first-person shooters, but you really don't.
I don't think they've really perfected how you're supposed to do the first-person shooter thing on the Wii.
I think the control scheme is just fine. Like, it's the same control scheme that GoldenEye has, and basically the same one that Metroid Prime Corruption had. It's just that, I think that they assume that it's a different demographic, so they're not going to do that type of game. I mean, they do have Call of Duty on the Wii and everything, but if you're like me and you have both the Wii and the Xbox, and you're going to get, a game like that, you might as well get it for the Xbox.
Yeah, and that's where all the core gamers are that play that kind of stuff.
Because I'm not much into the Call of Duty games since they became such a multiplayer wank fest, really.
Well, which is what it is.
Well, like Modern Warfare 2 is very pathetic because you could beat it in a day.
Yes.
And it was just like, oh yeah, we got to put the single player in there too. Let's whip that up over a weekend.
Well, I mean, if they're gonna do that, then they should just have made it like Warhawk for the PS3, where they ended up scrapping the single player and just making it a multiplayer game.
Yeah. Well, then then it like Unreal Tournament or Quake 3 was like that. I mean, there is a market for games like that, but I don't know. It's like there are people that get into Call of Duty for the story mode.
Yeah, and
especially since the first few games they did have a strong story mode.
I thought the first two games had an excellent story.
So it kind of went like really bonkers there.
Yeah. The other thing that I'm really a fan about in these games, or in all games, is like the music that they always have, and like seeing kind of how it's evolved from the past, like the old Ghosts and Goblins and the old Mario theme and the Tetris themes, up to what they're giving now in like the first-person shooters, in the new platformers, in even like the remakes, like the Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins. You know?
Well, yeah, because they had good songs. It's just the technology wasn't really there to make it sound amazing.
Yeah.
So now you hear the older songs, but you hear it, orchestrated and everything, and it sounds good.
Yes.
I actually I was thinking of doing some sort of maybe like a rant or something about that one day, about if you're a person who listens to that kind of music, which is basically, it comes down to classical music a lot of times.
Yeah.
You really got to play video games.
Oh, and I love classical music. Like, I could listen to it all day long. I find it very soothing. I think it helps me concentrate. And
you know what had a shockingly great soundtrack in that style was Mario Galaxy.
Actually, I was just listening to some of that today because I don't have a Wii, but like I was just searching through video game music, and it is friggin' fantastic.
Yeah, I've played some of it on the show on occasion.
Yeah,
and it's really good.
It is.
So video game music has definitely come a long way.
Yeah, and when you said rants, I think I remember. This is something that I just put on a side note. You had I think it was like the chronologically confused video that you put up a while ago. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, that was about how they start off numbering a series and then they stop and then they start again.
Yeah, I had a comment.
Like Grand Theft Auto and Guitar Hero and all that.
I actually had a comment about the Grand Theft Auto chronology. And that was, you said that, like, it went 1, 2, 3, Vice City, San Andreas, and then 4.
Yeah, what the hell's up with that?
Well,
yeah.
What is up with that is that all the ones that are numbered take place in Liberty City. Whereas...
Yeah, but so what? I mean...
But when you think about it that way, it kind of makes sense. Like, oh, all the numbered ones are going to be in Liberty City.
Because Vice City and San Andreas weren't just side games. They were each bigger than Grand Theft Auto 3 was.
Yeah, they were. But, I mean, I think they kept the numbering scheme to the ones that were only in Liberty City. Aside from, of course, Liberty City
I think they're
Stories.
making it up as they go along.
Okay, we'll see what happens when GTA 5 comes out. We'll see.
I think they're making it up as they go along.
All right.
I think they just call it whatever they call it. But yeah, it's weird. That's weird. Well, it was great having you on the show.
It was a pleasure to be on the show.
We'll have to have you on again sometime in the future.
Indeed.
And anything else you want to say before we call it quits?
I think I said everything that I wanted to say.
You couldn't ask for anything more. Okay,
All right.
So we'll get back to the show then.
All right.
There's your Ninja Gaiden song. Oh man, another long episode. We're already over an hour, but let's get to the sales figures. And actually, before I get to the sales figures, as this is the last show in March, let's tell you what the releases are going to be for April. So let's look at, and this is a no needs an exhaustive list. There may be games that are on here that may be wrong, and there may be games that are not on here that may be released, but this is what I have in front of me. So here are the releases for April. April 1st, on April Fool's Day, we'll see the release of Sorcery. That's coming out for PlayStation 3. On April 12th, we have Carnival Games Monkey See, Monkey Do coming out for Xbox 360. I'm assuming that's a Kinect game. Divinity 2, The Dragon Knight Saga will be coming out for Xbox 360. Man vs. Wild will be coming out for Xbox 360. Michael Jackson The Experience will be coming out for Xbox 360. Patapon 3 will be coming out for PlayStation Portable. And Rio will be coming out for PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, the DS, and the Wii. I think it's a Disney thing or something. Disney or Pixar or something. Actually, it's neither. It's a Blue Sky Studio, but it looks like one of those type of things. So that's what's going on there. April 18th, we'll see the release of Portal 2 coming to PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Windows, and Mac. And Conduit 2 will be coming to the Wii. Looking forward to that. And the next day, April 19th, will be Final Fantasy IV, the complete collection for PlayStation Portable. Very much looking forward to that. And Mortal Kombat will be released for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Also looking forward to that. SOCOM 4 U.S. Navy SEALs will also be coming out on the PlayStation 3. And finally, on April 26th, we have Dark Spore coming out for Windows. The First Templar will be coming out for Xbox 360 and Windows. And Operation Flashpoint Red River will be coming out for Xbox 360, Windows, and PlayStation 3. So not a lot of releases compared to March, but that's what's coming out. Some pretty big ones as far as I'm concerned. Definitely looking forward to Mortal Kombat, Conduit 2, Final Fantasy IV on PSP. So let's get to the charts. Let's see what sold and what didn't, or rather what sold. So here we are, software charts. This is the week ending in March 19th. In America, so of course this doesn't include any 3DS stuff. March 19th, is that right? Well, yeah, that's. I think that's a typo. Let me look at this. Yeah, weird. Did it update? Hold on a second. Let me look at this. This is. Just want to see if it's the same as last time. Here, it's a little bit weird that I'm not getting an updated here. Well, no, this is updated. The Pokemon. The Pokemon numbers are different, so I assume that this is actually the week ending in the 26th. It just, the source I'm looking at hasn't changed the text, so big error on their part. But here we have, in America, the top 10 best-selling game. Number 1, Pokemon Black and White version on the DS sold 719,643 copies. Homefront on the Xbox 360 sold 416,363 copies. And number 3, Homefront for PlayStation 3 sold 136,607 copies. And number 4, Killzone 3 for PlayStation 3 sold 98,174 copies. At number 5, Dragon Age 2 for the Xbox 360 sold 96,235 copies. At number 6, Wii Sports for the Wii sold 95,966 copies. At number 7, Just Dance 2 for the Wii sold 80,163 copies. At number 8, Kinect Adventures for Xbox 360 sold 68,718 copies. And I gotta say, what does it say about Kinect and Kinect Adventures when Wii Sports is outselling it by that much, and that's 4 years old? What does that say? At number 9, Wii Sports Resort for the Wii sold 61,821 copies. And at number 10, Shogun 2 Total War for the PC sold 59,840 copies. In Japan, obviously the sales are much, much lower because of the problems they're having there. Number 1 game was Shin Sangoku Musou 6, also known as Dynasty Warriors 7. That's the way that works out. It's 6 there, it's 7 here. That's for the PlayStation 3. That sold 68,542 copies. Number 2, Dissidia Duodecim Final Fantasy sold 30,000. That's for PlayStation Portable, 30,982 copies. At number 3, Layton Kyojoto Kiseki no Kamen, or Professor Layton and the Mask of Miracles, sold 17,890 copies. That's a 3DS game. At number 4, Phantasy Star Portable 2 Infinity for the PlayStation. For PlayStation Portable, sold 16,182 copies. At number 5, Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, also known as Monster Hunter Freedom 3, for the PSP, sold 15,925 copies. At number 6, Nintendogs Plus Cats on the 3DS sold 14,652 copies. At number 7, SD Gundam G Generation World for the PSP sold 14,340 copies. At number 8, Hanoani Kaiyosomero Koku Ikkyu no Shirushi. I don't have that in English, but that's on the PSP. It sold 12,655 copies. I have no idea what that means, but there you have it. Man, oh man. Number 9, Samurai Do 4, known as Way of the Samurai 4 here, for PS3, sold 12,536 copies. And number 10, Powerful Golf for the DS, sold 9,809 copies. In Europe, the big seller, Pokemon Black and White for the DS, 226,032 copies. Homefront for Xbox 360, 172,447 copies. Homefront for PS3, 103,828 copies. On the PC, Shogun 2 Total War sold 58,268 copies. At number 5, Wii Sports for the Wii, 47,340 copies. At number 6, Killzone 3. That's where I was getting the 3 from. And that's for PlayStation 3, so there's 3s everywhere. That sold 40,613 copies. At number 7, Wii Sports Resort on the Wii sold 40,190 copies. At number 8, Dragon Age 2 for Xbox 360 sold 32,662 copies. At number 9, Wii Party on the Wii sold 30,648 copies. And at number 10, Just Dance 2 on the Wii sold 30,502 copies. So worldwide, the big seller was Pokemon, selling nearly 1 million copies. Amazing, amazing. And that's after 2 million copies the week before. Looking at the hardware charts in America, the big seller was the DS, selling 113,795 units. Xbox 360 after that with 110,899 units. The Wii sold 95,966 units. PlayStation 3 sold 85,035 units. And the PSP sold 36,463 units. The 3DS, not on here yet. We'll see next week. In Japan, the big seller was the 3DS, selling 65,894 units, followed by the PS3 at 25,565 units, the PSP at 20,942 units, the DS at 15,921 units, the Wii at 9,490 units, and finally the Xbox 360 at 1,727 units. In Europe, the big seller, everything's much more even there, but the big seller was PlayStation 3, selling 74,006 units, followed by the DS with 63,523 units, the Wii with 55,392 units, Xbox 360 with 44,615 units, and the PSP with 29,557 units. 3DS not on here yet. We'll find out next week, hopefully. Worldwide, the big seller being the DS. That was the big seller this week in terms of hardware sales. So that's going to be our show for this week. We'll see you next week with more VMX show goodness. If you want to be on the show, contact me. Leave me your questions and comments here, or PM me, or whatever the hell you want to do. VMX out.